It sounds.
LA leakers.
Yes.
Okay.
LAleakers.com, Sour Milk, Just
Bones on
Incredible
silent.
Fuzz, Fan
There
Tab.
you go.
And we got a new honorary LA Leaker for the day.
LA Leaker.
Elliott Wilson's here, man.
Yeah.
Represent
I
made
made
it.
it.
RapRadar, all kind of shit.
Woo!
Elliott, what's up, man? Finally,
What's up,
we get to sit
man?
down and chop
LA,
it up.
man, with Kings right now, man. This is incredible,
Elliott
man.
fucks with us heavy. You know what I'm
Fuzzy,
saying?
just incredible sour milk, man.
Finally, man. We
I
get
feel
to
special, man. The
We
mics
feel
are on.
special.
The mics is on. I see like
the waves is
the
looking
waves
good.
is looking lovely.
Nah,
we
we
don't even
good.
got no headphones. Our waves
Nah,
is
we
tight.
good, man.
Our waves is good.
Hey, yo. As
Like
LA
B-Dot's
Leakers-
waves. That's why B-Dot wears that do-rag, man. Everybody knows
What the
rap
fuck
radar
is
do
that
B-Dot gotta
1993
keep-
ass shit? What the fuck is... Tell them.
B-Dot from Rap Radar insists on keeping those waves nice and crispy,
Nice and-
man. So that's why that do-rag must be worn,
That's
man.
like having a Jerry Crow with the fucking shower cap on still.
You
Like,
wearing a do-rag last night?
it was late. Fucking come on, man. It's after
Uh-oh,
10 o'clock. Come on, man.
But you were wearing one.
But you don't see
So
me
you
out in the
sleep in
club
it.
with the
So
shit.
you wear it tonight to keep your shit tight. But you're not
Goddamn
gonna wear
right.
it out.
Nah.
Yeah,
I wore.
that's where the
I-
line
Oh, wait.
gets
Oh,
crossed.
he wears it out?
Yeah, of
No,
course.
but
At
what?
times with the flap. You
He
be
with the
flapping.
flap out, Jack.
Wow.
Like
Nah.
he. What?
Sometimes.
B Dot
Yeah.
looks like the fucking cover of a do rag. Like, ta-da.
That's his Twitter
That's
default.
his, yeah, it is. That's his shit.
Yeah,
That's his
He
style.
goes there with it. He goes there with it. though.
Yeah.
Yo,
Jeez.
so
You
for
gotta keep the
people
waves tight.
who might not know, obviously, I'm sure everyone listening is familiar with Rap Radar.
Yes, sir. Hopefully.
Tell us,
Better be if you're a
At
real
this
hip hop
point,
head. You
tell
I'm gonna
tell
start some
us-
new shit.
Tell us the
Can
history.
I curse?
though.
I'm sorry.
You can say
Okay,
whatever
right.
the fuck you want.
All right.
Tell us the history though, man. You know what I'm
Of
saying?
Rap Radar?
No. Just
Oh.
the history
Me?
of Elliott Wilson.
Pop
January
your collar.
14, 1971.
We want to know everything.
pop
My
your
dad
collar.
and mom fornicated, and I was born. I don't know. Where do we start? I don't.
Tell us.
My wife is here?
How did you get your start in the industry?
Oh, 19. Not really. Was it really in the industry? I
Yeah,
met.
you're
I
in
met.
the industry.
No. At first, I'm trying to say like when did I really get? I started dealing with the industry begging for records, but I met. The thing with me is I met Sasha Jenkins, this writer, who was working at a magazine called Beatdown. It was a newspaper, and I met him at a KRS-One show, and we got exchanged numbers.
In
And,
college years?
huh?
In your college years?
I had I had graduated community college,
Okay.
LaGuardia, and I was going to Queens College, and I hated it. It was like the first year of trying to get a 4-year degree. I had like a 2-year degree.
Right.
I was like in my 3rd year in Queens College, and I hated it. So I met Haji, this guy that was going to college with me, and Sasha, who I went to the same high school. They had started this newspaper called Beatdown. You remember they had Rap Sheet?
I remember, yeah.
We used to
Rap
battle
Sheet was
Rap
out
Sheet over like
Sheena Lester.
yeah. Well, that's Rap Pages.
Rap Pages, my
Rap
bad.
Sheet was Darryl James, D to the J.
You're right. Absolutely
So we
right.
would battle Rap Sheet like who's the #1 hip hop newspaper. So that was the big battle. That didn't really last long. So then that ended
That was a phase.
in '92. But no, around the same time as I started to get to know the industry because I wanted records. Like as a DJ, you understand, you guys understand.
Hell yeah.
And I was like trying to get my hands on like They Reminisce Over You and Faking the Funk remix.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't sell it to me at the record store. And I was like, why not? They're like, it's a white label. I'm like, what's a white label? I'll pay for it. My money's good. My money's green. What white label? How much? And then my man was like, no, you got to go to the labels. The labels give you records. I'm like, the labels give you records?
I feel
So
you.
then, like, I got a book about the college promoters and who was giving out records. And I lied and said I was a DJ. And I got
Like
all these
Gavin, like the
records.
Gavin Report and all that shit?
No,
or
like it was
something?
like a book the Electra made, and there was a guy, Fred Jackson. He was
Okay.
the head of promotion, and there was like Eric Skinner,
I remember Eric
all
Skinner and
these
those
guys,
Yeah,
yeah,
old
Troy
school.
Shelton,
Yeah, of course.
mentioned all these OGs,
Yeah,
and
I
I would
don't
go to
know
their,
who
I
the
would
fuck
go to
you're
their
talking
office and beg for records. This is when the record labels had the product; they had the music
Okay.
first. And then you get to be a writer and say, okay, well then the publicity department would get the album before it came out. They get
So
the
you're right
advanced
on it.
cassette.
Right.
So I dubbed the cassette and get more vinyl and trade, and that's how I kind of was in the industry, just connecting because I wanted the product. So,
Yeah.
but then we did Ego Trip after we did Beatdown,
Okay.
and then my first reel after that, once we started doing Ego Trip, we took notice and we got noticed by people that were at the Source and at Vibe, and you know my wife's here, Danielle. She gave us a shot to write for her at Vibe. And then I got a job at the Source, and then from Source to Double XL to RapRadar.
Double
That's the
XL's
short
when you
version.
really start popping, though.
You don't say,
When
Fuzz?
you really started
Yeah.
popping.
No, I became a boss. Like I was like
Yes.
always a music editor, like #2 in command. Always like this is what the boss should have did. And then you get the ball and you get to be the boss, and it's just like
So you
What are you gonna
didn't
do?
you didn't start off to be in the journalism field, you just was a fan of hip hop, or were you
No,
writing?
I wanted to write
already?
I
You
wanted to write
write
for the source, but I
Okay.
didn't realize there was an industry and there was a business. I thought
Got
you could
you.
just write. And I wrote a letter and I got rejection letter back and all that stuff. Like I didn't know there was a business and who these people were.
Right.
I just was like, I want to write for the source. I want to be music editor of the source because I wanted to be the guy that got every rap album first and gave out the mics and the reviews and was like the authority of the culture. So I always wanted to be that. Like first I wanted to be a sports writer. And then my interest in sports started to like falter, and I always had hip hop, and I started looking at like there was the source, and at that time Spin Magazine was doing some stuff on hip hop, and I was
small blurbs, and
small
spin.
blurbs,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
then I was like magazines dedicated to our culture, like this culture that I love, like I want to do it, and I want to be dominant, like I want to get all the records. So it was probably more from a music editor perspective of like a critic, like I want to tell you what albums are dope and what's not to be the editor in chief and not run the magazine and be the big boss. So when I went to Double XL, that was more my job.
Do you remember the first album you had to review and put in print?
The first album I reviewed? Well, my first interview was bizarre. It was with Divine Styler. Remember Divine
Come on, goddamn
Styler?
like Divine Style.
So that's my first interview. Coogee Rap was my second interview. The first review I wrote, that's a good question. I don't know. I reviewed Illmatic for Rap Pages, speaking of Sheila Lester.
Okay.
Like, everybody remembers that. We're going to tell these old-ass war stories. Everybody remembers, I'm not talking about all this 90s shit all fucking podcasts or whatever.
The golden age of hip-hop.
Nah, but everybody remembers that the Source gave Nas 5 mics, and that was the big moment in culture. That's
right.
5 mics for a new. But people remembers that Nas still couldn't get a cover back then because he was still a New Jack, so he couldn't get a cover. So Sheena Lester was smart. She put Nas on the cover of Rap Pages. And Bobito Garcia, who was a respected brother in New York, he wrote the story. But they didn't have Illmatic. So I was like in New York, and I would go up to the labels, and I stole Illmatic, I dubbed it, and I was like, I have Illmatic, I'll review it. So I reviewed it, and they did it like a big sidebar to the cover.
That's
story.
dope.
So you were the original leaker.
And I reviewed. Oh, here's the other thing. So then the other barrier, speaking of the West Coast, was that they had Herb magazine and the Bomb magazine.
Yes.
And all these West Coast magazines. And I used to get mad because they wouldn't let any East Coast writers write for these magazines. So I figured out how I could get down. I got down because I had the advanced cassettes thing, and I was able to get the records first. So that's how I got down. And like for Herb, I did a double review. I reviewed Midnight Marauders and Into the Wu-Tang. You know, because I got my hands on it. And Josh Levine, the brother over there, like he hooked me up and gave me, because I would get my hands on records first. That's kind of how I used the review thing, kind of just for my leverage of being in New York and having access to the publicists and getting my hands on the music. So I know I reviewed these big records. I reviewed the infamous for Vibe. Like I reviewed big records. I don't remember the exact first record I reviewed, but I remember I was mad because one time it was in one of the early issues of Beatdown. And it was like they wouldn't give me Diamond D, Stunts, Blunts, and Hip Hop. They wouldn't give me an advanced cassette.
You wanted.
So I wrote some review like the publicist sucked. She didn't give me the record.
Fuck Mercury.
But it's like 5 stars. And like that's like one like fake review I wrote. But I remember I wrote a great review in Ego Trip of like it was written juxtaposed with Reasonable Doubt, because people don't remember that those albums came out around the exact same time. Like here's Nas on his second album with this journey, and it's funny because the new generation, they love it was written, you know, almost as much as Illmatic, and there's a big debate. But we hated it was written when it came out. If he was from the 90s, because we felt Nas was going commercial, and who's Steve Stout and Lauryn Hill singing.
It was really polished.
And it's Curtis Blow. Like, what is this? Like, so, you know, I don't know where we're at, but that's exciting. 90s stuff.
Bars. Give me bars right now.
90s stuff. But but XXL was the beginning of me being the boss. You're not just a music editor. You could run the whole thing. You could decide who's on the cover. You could pick who you're going to pick.
There was a lot of big covers for XXL.
Yeah.
Damn. All Eminem.
Interscope. A lot of Interscope.
Interscope was running shit.
Well, we had beef with Eminem when I took over. So my first mission was, how do I squash beef with Eminem?
Is that right?
And you know, how do we get him on our favor? Because they had wrote an article before I got there about like is the white guy in hip hop is gonna ruin the culture. So they was real mad. So then Noah Callahan Bever, who runs Complex, he got me a meeting with Paul Rosenberg, and I remember it was all stiff, and we sat down, and then he sat in the meeting, and he was like, no, actually, before let me not get to that. First thing that happened was I tried to reach out, and I wanted to like squash the beef, and I was like, let's do Eminem on the cover of XXL ripping a double XL. Woo! And we would do like him in the office, like tying me up in a chair, and like sort of like a takeover. Because there was the idea that Sasha had with Rap Pages, because remember Fat Joe back then had all these beef with the West Coast magazine. He said was going to put Fat Joe on the cover ripping a Rap Pages. So he was like, let's do that. Let's have Eminem. So they thought about doing it. Then they said no. So then the art director this guy Don Morris, who worked for me, he was like, well, fuck Eminem. So he did this illustration of Eminem like getting spanked by his mother, like this real hideous illustration. And it ran the first issue I did with DMX on the cover. So he dissed us on Marshall Mathers. Like I go to the magazine and there's a picture of my big white ass, you know, double XL. So he dissed us on Marshall Mathers. Like that was the beginning. So then he was mad at us all that time. I reignited the beef instead of squashing it. So what happens is now we fast forward to Noah making the sit-down happen. It's because Benzino had put out that diss record, which I didn't even know. So Paul gets in the meeting. He's like, how would you like Eminem, Dr. Dre, and 50 Cent? I'm like, well, I would have just took 50 Cent right now because I'm trying to do 50 Cent on the cover. I was like, no, this is great. He's like,
I'll take all three.
Yeah, exactly. So that was how that came together because Benzino made that record, and then that was the beginning
That
of like
bridge is burnt.
repairing that relationship that we had because we had the beef with Eminem. So then those guys inherited the beef and like they was beef with Eminem and it helped us a lot. But it was because we had shown
That was a great relationship
we had
to
shown
start.
it started with 50 though because we had recognized that 50 was like really impacting culture, like especially in New York with the mixtapes.
Yeah, big deal.
And I was
Really
like,
big deal.
I remember like I was trying to figure out how to do stories that nobody was doing, and like I would come back to my office, and everybody in every cubicle was playing 50 Cent, and I was like, yo, this guy's like the hottest fucking guy right now. Like, I was like, let's do a big 10-page big story on him because back then it would be like a new artist would get like a next section and vibe or like a mic check in the source, and you could only give the artist 1 page, 2 pages. I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna give this guy 10 pages. Like, he's the hottest guy right now. So we had built that relationship with 50, and I kept putting him in every issue. Like we put him in like in a vodka drinking contest to be in the book, and he doesn't even fucking drink. And it was like we would have him in the magazine every month. So when he signed with Eminem, we was like, oh, this guy's gonna cut us off and say he can't fuck with us because he's with Eminem. But that helped build that relationship too.
Right.
And then that was the first time we outsold the Source when we did that cover. But then they came back and was still kicking our ass, and it took a couple more years before we really were #1. And I was able to back up all the shit talking.
LA Leakers.